Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Donald Trump goes back to his populist approach, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. In a speech last night outside of Milwaukee, the candidate spoke forcefully about the problems facing America. Trying to broaden his appeal, Mr. Trump directed some of his remarks at African Americans.
I'm asking for the vote of every African American citizen struggling in our country today who wants a different and much better future. It's time for our society to address some honest and very, very difficult truths. The Democratic Party has failed and betrayed the African American community.
Mr. Trump pointing to the median household income for blacks falling during President Obama's tenure. Black home ownership also fallen. And the black poverty rate has risen slightly. As far as crime is concerned, blacks make up 13% of the population, but 38% of all violent crime arrests are African American individuals. In education, blacks have the highest high school dropout rate among ethnic groups and score lowest among American groups in math and writing on the SATs. So it would seem that Donald Trump is a point. The stats say that under a progressive Democratic president, black Americans are less well off than they were under President Bush the Younger. Now, it would be hard to believe that black Americans would rally behind Donald Trump because he has been successfully demonized in many African American precincts. Also, Trump's style doesn't seem to appeal to minority voters in general. I don't think there's any question about that. But on the issues, it is clear that liberal policies have not really helped the African American community lately. However, Talking Points believes that change is not in the air, that blacks and other minorities will go big for Hillary Clinton despite the current State of the Union. Will anything change that? No. And that's the memo. Now for the top story, why do African Americans remain so loyal to the Democratic Party? Joining us from Miami, criminal defense attorney Andel Brown. Here in New York City, Reverend Jacques DeGraff. So the stats are in stone, but Republicans still have a very hard time convincing African Americans to even give them a look. Why is that?
Well, if you look at the Trump campaign, on the first day of his campaign, he went and insulted a significant portion of the population, and it's been downhill ever since.
How did he do that again?
When he talked about Mexican rapists and others, that was the first day of his campaign. It's a year later into his campaign, and now he's talking to black folks.
So you think African Americans were offended by a remark based upon smugglers, people smugglers, that some Mexicans who cross the border illegally are rapists and drug dealers? Do you think African Americans were
I think
offended by
African Americans observed the tone of the campaign and said that this is not a campaign that is in any way trying to embrace or include me. And
all right, is there anything else? You have another backup for for why they would think that way? I'm very curious to know.
Because there's been a hostile atmosphere. If you look at the audience of the crowd that he was making the speech to,
right,
there were no African Americans.
Well, it's overwhelmingly, according to the polls, Mr. Brown, only 2% of African Americans currently support Mr. Trump. So in any crowd, it's not going to be very many of them. Although we have certainly had Trump supporters of color on here. But I don't understand why, and let's take Trump out of the equation just for the moment, because Romney didn't do well, and McCain didn't do well in the African American single digits.
They both did better than him, though.
Yes, but not by a lot. Single digits for both.
Single digits, yes,
so
indeed.
why isn't the African American community saying, look, you know what? We had a black president, didn't really help us very much. Democratic Party hasn't really helped us very much. Maybe we go supply side economics and look for a guy who's going to stimulate the economy. That perhaps would be better. Why don't they do that?
Well, you also have to look at what Trump has said and done himself, not necessarily, as you would put it, being demonized, where in November of 2015, Trump retweeted a very highly inaccurate, casting African Americans in a bad light tweet that basically said black people killed 81% of white people. I mean, that was just totally inaccurate.
Okay,
you even addressed it on your show, Bill.
Let me just, yes, and I said that Mr. Trump was foolish to, quote, retweet a fallacious stat. All right? It wasn't a stat coming from him.
How do you
he
think
just picked it
that
up.
shows his perspective toward black people? If I were an African-American
guy, I would have been outraged. But again, I'm trying to transcend Trump and go to the policies that aren't working for the African American community. It's obvious they're not working. It's obvious
we can't have an election without looking at both sides.
Well, they're not. The African Americans aren't looking at both sides. They've written Trump off. I think that's pretty clear.
Because Trump and the Republican Party, it's not just Trump, as you're indicating.
Right.
The House of Representatives blocked everything that the president has been trying to do for 8 years.
Give me an example.
The Affordable Care Act.
Well, it passed.
It passed in spite of them, and it passed with compromises on a state-by-state level.
But you know what's happening now, right, Reverend?
Well,
with the Affordable Care Act?
The Affordable Care Act is in distress because of the various compromises that had to be made along the way.
No, that's not true. It's in distress because of the spending level that the federal government has put out there. So working class black Americans are paying far more for health insurance, while some poor Americans get it free.
Black Americans, like any other group in America, are capable of determining their own best interest. And black Americans don't have a relationship with the Republican Party because of the hostile environment that they fostered for 8 years.
But I don't know if the Democratic Party, Mr. Brown, is doing them any good. Do you believe the Democratic Party is doing African Americans any good right now?
One of the things I've seen, especially in the area of criminal justice reform with the Fair Sentencing Act, which removed the distinctions between crack cocaine and powder cocaine that disproportionately affected African American communities. So that was one major thing. Also in education, I think that's an area where President Obama has stepped up with the funding for schools based on racing towards the top instead of the racing towards the bottom. Common Core education. Making sure a kid in Chicago.
Now, though, if you look at the stats, African American schools lag behind white schools big time, and the Democratic Party has blocked the voucher system.
One of the
I just want to make Mr. Brown right. They have blocked the voucher system, which would give poor blacks an option to attend private schools, and they blocked that. All right, now
obviously, Bill, this problem wasn't created overnight. It won't be solved overnight.
But it's getting worse.
I've spoken to a number of educators in the charter school system, the voucher school system, and they say that these things are working for African American communities.
They're not working on paper. The stats are in stone.
One of the areas of distress in our community is at-risk male youth. This president has highlighted it, and Hillary Clinton has made a commitment to doing things like with the Eagle Academy in New York that exist in areas of distress.
I have been on board with President. Wait a minute, Mr. Brown.
Another program.
Wait a minute. I have been on board, as you know.
Yes,
I was at the White House.
We were together
with the Brothers Keeper Initiative, which I think is excellent.
Right.
Since that time, I've done a lot to try to get that into the public eye, and have not been met with cooperation from President Obama. I wish he would, because it's a very good program. However, and this is the final word, when you look at a president, he's been in office almost 8 years, you have to evaluate what has been accomplished. And there's no question, according to the stats, that blacks are worse off. Gentlemen, great debate. Thanks very much. Next on the rundown, a shocking poll from the Los Angeles Times says Trump only 1 point behind Hillary Clinton. But other polls give the secretary a growing lead. Bowling and Rivera will debate it. Then Glenn Beck, not a big fan of Trump. He'll be here to discuss politics. Up ahead.
It's easy to switch.
Campaign 2016 segment tonight. Surprising new poll from the Los Angeles Times this morning. The paper does daily tracking, and today Hillary Clinton was up by only 1 point nationwide. However, an economist poll, not tracking but a big poll, done in roughly the same time period as Ms. Clinton beating Trump by 6. As we've told you before, the polls will not mean very much until mid-September. However, Donald Trump has shaken up his campaign staff, a sign he sees some danger. Joining us now to discuss the situation, Geraldo Rivera and Eric Bowling. So, Bowling, Trump puts the head of Breitbart, which is a conservative website, a man named Steve Bannon, in charge. Do you know Steve Bannon?
Very well.
I don't know much about him.
Very well. Known him for more than 10 years, a decade. He was very close to Andrew Breitbart when Andrew was around. He's a fighter. He's a street fighter. He's been around the block. He spent some time at Goldman Sachs, spent some time, I believe, in the Navy as well. But he's known as the guy who can fire up the base, more so the Trump base than the establishment
base. Is he a very conservative man, a moderate conservative?
I would say he's very conservative in the Andrew Breitbart model of conservatism.
He's a crazy crazy conservative.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by crazy conservative.
I mean that he's a flamethrower who ruined Anthony Weiner's life, among others.
Well, Anthony Weiner ruined his own life. You can't blame Bannon for Weiner's problems.
He was trolling.
But he's the Andrew Breitbart type. He's the more red.
But people don't know the late Mr. Breitbart. They really don't know what his political philosophy was.
Anti-immigration.
Let's try to put it and using Ronald Reagan as the yardstick. Okay, is Bannon a Reagan Republican?
I would say he's right of Reagan.
He's right of Reagan. Okay, do you know anything about this new crew that's taken over for Trump?
I know that Bloomberg calls Bannon the most dangerous political operative in the country. He's
Mayor Bloomberg?
Bloomberg Business News.
Okay, the
says
news
this
organization.
guy is the most dangerous political operative.
Why do they say
Because
that?
he's bare knuckle. He went after Weiner. He's a take no prisoners kind of guy. He's a guy whose appointment to this job, more importantly, relevant to this discussion, signals that Trump is not going to be the measured pivot candidate that Paul Manafort's selection indicated that he would be, that this guy's going to let Trump be Trump.
He's going to run right?
He's going to run right. He's going to be populist. He's going to be
is
bare
running
knuckle.
Hillary Clinton's campaign, and Podesta's a bare knuckle fighter, gut fighter.
Podesta's no match. He's got nothing.
That's inside baseball. I'm not interested in that. All right. So this signals to Rivera Bowling that Trump is going to run more right now, a more populist campaign. We heard that last night. Going to appeal largely to white voters. You just heard that African Americans aren't going to go for Trump. If he gets 2%, that's what he's going to.
Can I talk about that number for a second?
What he's getting.
Yeah, but you know what, Geraldo, you know what it is? If you go from 2% to, let's say, 8% in the African American vote, the African American population is 13% of the total population. You move the needle by less than 1%.
And so he's probably not
going to win an election on the African American.
You don't give away votes.
You're just not going to win it on the African American vote.
Trump made a speech.
Do the math. It's not even that.
Trump made a speech last night that was a fine speech, substantively speaking, about how African Americans are hurting themselves with the anarchy of the ghetto civil war going on, that the Democratic Party has done absolutely nothing
you
with these
agree with that, by the way?
I agree with everything he said substantively,
Really?
but what does he do? He goes to the Milwaukee area where they've had these riots. He makes the speech in the damn all-white suburbs, all white people there.
But he didn't want trouble.
But listen, what's the point of going to Milwaukee if you're going to go to West Bend?
Because it was a nationwide speech.
Wrong, Bill. There's plenty of stadiums downtown Milwaukee.
Again, that's a tactical decision. But you agreed with the speech.
I did. And so do you, largely. I mean, you're the architect of it in many ways.
I'm the architect of it, but I would go a little bit more personal and not do the political thing. I would say, listen, you guys have got to be more self-reliant, and I'm going to help you be that way because I'm going to put more money into your community.
And you walk around the community, you're actually with black people when you want to show black people that you care about black people. You're not with an all-white crowd. This is the
maybe you should be the outreach guy.
I should have been. Yeah. This is the candidate who refused to denounce David Duke. Well, this is the candidate where you remember where at his rallies white people were punching the few black people that
happened. That's not his fault.
Happened once.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back. Let's get
Bannon.
I think that the polls now don't matter very much. Do you both concur with that?
I disagree.
You do. So you think they mean a lot? You don't.
I think that polls are a reflection of reality.
Now, why would the LA Times only have a 1.2?
Mark Twain said, "Figures don't lie, but liars figure." I think that there's a personal interpretation, even of objective data.
Why would the LA Times have it?
Because I'll give you very quickly. The Daybreak poll uses an enthusiasm measurement. In other words, it's not that
Trump has got more enthusiasm than he had last week.
But he could have fewer. If he has 10 people, but they have twice as much enthusiasm as Hillary's 11 people, they're gonna show that on this enthusiasm poll of the LA Times Daybreak poll, they're gonna show that he has a number high.
But
for instance, after the Republican convention,
it looks like he stopped the bleeding.
Right.
I don't have time for the history.
Please.
The moment. Hillary has the moment.
Here's the bottom line: the YouGov poll that is out there now that has Hillary by 6.
Yeah.
That's a statistical tie. It's 4 percentage points plus or minus. No, this is relevant.
I got to go.
Because it's closing the gap.
The key to it is
it's not.
Florida.
It's going the other way.
Stop. Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. They got to watch those. All right, Trump needs them all. Gentlemen, thank you. Directly ahead, Glenn Beck has written a new book on how progressives are not telling the truth. He will be here. And later, some journalists say they fear for their lives covering the Milwaukee race situation. Those reports after these messages. Personal Story segment tonight, Glenn Beck. Earlier this week on his radio program, he compared Donald Trump to Black Lives Matter.
He's making a new group of Black Lives Matter. He's making a new group of people that so distrust and hate the system that they will buy anything. It was a rigged election. The media ought to go to jail. And it's these Republicans. And not look at who's leading that.
Joining us now from Dallas is Glenn Beck, author of the brand new book, Liars, How Progressives Exploit Our Fears for Power and Control, which we will work into this discussion.
Yes. Do you miss me, Bill? I mean, how much? Really? Come on. Come on. Bill, you don't call me anymore. I've been eating myself sick. I sit at home and watch your show. And
you look like you've been eating yourself sick there, Beck. You know what I mean? So I get the point that if Mr. Trump is going to campaign on a rigged election theory, it creates cynicism. I get it. Yes. But that's really a very minor part of his presentation, is it not? Aren't you nitpicking him?
No. Did you see who he just made the CEO of his campaign? One of the dirtiest, nastiest human beings alive.
Well, we just talked about that. But he needs somebody to go up against Podesta and Media Matters and George Soros. Come on, you know the other side. You know what's playing the other side.
I do know the other side, yeah. and I do know the other side, except the problem is you have tape of Donald Trump actually saying, don't worry about George Soros. He's a very nice guy. He gets a bad rap. Come on.
You saw what we did last night with Soros, right?
He is a... What? What did he do last night?
Okay, we laid out the hacked emails about what he really wants to do, how he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars tracking people like Cliff May and Liz Cheney. You know, that he's a real bad hombre. And by the way, the DNC, we still have because he's given so much money, $13 million, to the Democrats this election cycle, we still have awaiting a comment. Bernie Goldberg's on that case for tomorrow. But
no, look, we know he's a bad guy. Donald Trump doesn't seem to know that he's a bad guy. Donald Trump doesn't seem to recognize bad guys. He's got Paul Manafort, who has direct ties, may end up in jail because he was funneling foreign money into lobbying firms.
So you're believing all the hype that's put out there, but you don't know that for sure. You didn't investigate Manafort. Come on,
no,
Beck. I mean, you're throwing stuff against the wall. You don't have any evidence to put the man in jail, and you know you don't.
Bill, I said he may end up in jail. There's also handwritten ledgers.
If you keep saying this kind of stuff, you might end up in jail. Come on, let's stay on the track.
That's my point. When is it a problem for somebody to have an opinion in this country? Barack Obama, I thought, was bad. Donald Trump has people chanting, put them in jail about the press. When is someone's opinion on a public figure something that is jail-worthy and not First Amendment protected? Bill, this guy is a nightmare. He is a nightmare waiting to happen.
Now, do people get mad at you? Do your radio listeners, some of them, on TV listeners, do they get angry with you that you're so anti-Trump?
No, yeah, of course some do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how much blowback has there been?
My ratings have grown by 25%. However, at the same time, I'm sure I've lost listeners as well. I don't do this, Bill, as you know. I mean, Bill, you used to say to me, I sat in your office and you gave me the best advice anybody's ever given me on multiple occasions. The first thing you said to me is, Beck, I'm watching your show. What are you doing? You're going to burn yourself out. There's so much. And I said, I'm not doing this for a long-term career here. Do you remember that? And you said, you could be here forever. Just slow down. That's not who I am. I'm trying to tell what I believe is true, and I'm trying to warn people about what I think is coming.
Okay, but here's the problem with that.
You have a national populist.
Nobody doubts your sincerity. But in Chapter 5 of your book, which I actually am reading, okay, in Chapter 5, you lay out a very persuasive case that Barack Obama's progressive philosophy has really damaged the nation in many, many ways. So now, if you follow that logic, you've got Hillary Clinton, who has not distanced herself at all from Obama, the president. You know, it'll be another 4 years, perhaps, and I think she might be different, but I'm not sure. But she could be another 4 years of what you are saying has been tremendously destructive. So, you know, you're killing both of them, leaving Americans. You talk about cynical, you're leaving them in the dust. Last word.
No, I'm not leaving anybody in the dust. I'm not telling anybody what they should do. You should decide who is best, and there are other choices besides those two.
No, they're not. It's going to be either Clinton or Trump as president. There are no other choices.
Then here's what you do. You go out and you campaign hard for those constitutional conservatives that will go serve in the House and the Senate. Donald Trump says he doesn't care. He doesn't care if the GOP loses the House. I do, because I want somebody to be able to stand against whoever is in office, because I don't think either of them care about the Constitution one iota.
All right. The book is Liars, How Progressives Exploit Our Fears for Power and Control. Glenn Beck, always provocative, and we appreciate you coming on.
And sexy,
tonight.
and always sexy.
Yeah, there's another bit of propaganda. Plenty more ahead as the factor moves along this evening. Miller will take me to task about my travels to Cuba. And Martha McCallum on a monkey causing big problems at a Walmart. Where do you see this one? We hope you stay tuned for those reports.
Road happy.
Back in follow-up segment tonight, as you may know, we do not nitpick here, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. We don't do that to them. For example, when the father of the Orlando terrorists attended a Hillary Clinton rally in Florida, we didn't think that had any meaning at all. And when Donald Trump said that Barack Obama created ISIS, we knew exactly what he was talking about, the failed U.S. policy in Iraq. So we basically ignored both stories. However, there are two situations that remain undefined, both in the Clinton camp, I want to talk about tonight. The Clinton Foundation situation and the FBI giving Clinton email documents to a House Oversight Committee. Here now with the latest, Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge. Let's take the Clinton Foundation story first. Anything new?
Well, Bill, I spoke with 3 different contacts today to prep for the show, 2 law enforcement and 1 congressional. And what I know is that the email investigation has been put to bed. The Clinton Foundation is ongoing. It's not moving quickly for 2 reasons. One is that it's very complex. And if you're going to do this, you want the whole pie, not just a slice. And there's no real full-throated support for it at the Justice Department. And then there's this third piece, this perjury case, these allegations that Hillary Clinton lied to Congress during her testimony in 2015 about her email practices. And that, frankly, is a very hard case to make, because you've got to get inside her head. And they were not able to do that with the email case.
Is that what they turned over to the House Oversight Committee? Mm-hmm. They turned over her testimony to the FBI, to the committee? Right. Is that what that was about?
That's a great question. What they turned over was the FBI's investigative file. So the summary of Hillary Clinton's interview, which is known within the FBI as a 302. The FBI does not record interviews. They base summaries on the agent's notes. Congress was also given backup notes, as well as the 110 emails that were classified at the time that she sent and received them on her server. The key thing, Bill, is that many of these documents are heavily redacted or blacked out at the request of the CIA. So they remain highly classified to this day. And even the chairman of the House Government Oversight Committee, Jason Chaffetz, doesn't even have the security clearance to read these documents in full. So this really undercuts the Clinton campaign's position that there's really nothing to see here and that the information was not sensitive or classified.
All right, now back to the foundation. So you're basically saying, and your sources are telling you, that Attorney General Lynch really don't have any interest in the foundation, sorry.
That would be the right way to put it, more or less.
I'm disappointed in her. I am. I thought that when she was appointed Attorney General that she would pursue justice. I don't have any axe to grind on a Clinton Foundation, but, you know, if you look at all of the people who had access to Secretary of State Clinton, and then all of the money they did give the foundation, certainly that needs to be clarified, and Attorney General Lynch should be up front and saying we need to clarify that.
This is a great point. You know, the FBI's #1 priority on their website is public corruption. I mean, this is not something that you can just do a drive-by on.
No, and it's at the highest level. It's at the highest level, and it's,
that's right.
You know, if you look at it and you look at the sheer number of people who had given to the Clinton Foundation, who then got access to Hillary Clinton in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
I mean, it really has to.
I agree. But the threshold is very high in public corruption cases.
I'm not saying there's any crime. I'm just saying I want to know as an American what the hell happened there.
Yeah,
all right,
that's a good way to put it.
We appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Miller on deck. He's got a quibble with me going to Cuba. Uh-oh. The D-Man is next. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Miller Time segment tonight. It's August, so the D-Man has disappeared. We don't know where he is. And really, nobody's looking very hard. But we did put together some of his recent outrageous comments. Miller, a haircut. You look like Beeve's older brother, Tony Dow. I like it.
Gee, Mom, I just wanted my hair to look good like Wally's.
Billy, it's not a haircut. It fell out when I was watching Loretta Lynch's testimony.
Again, I need more facts on the hypothetical.
I thought the Attorney General was supposed to prosecute people who obstructed justice, not perfected. She made Comey look like Sammy the Bull Gravano in a karaoke bar. In Cuba, Bill, I had an image of you like Hyman Roth up on the roof with all your friends saying, show everybody the cake.
Make sure that everybody sees the cake before we cut it.
And there we have the iconic Che Guevara shirt. Now, I guess Sanders is pushing socialism over here, Billy, and I just don't know if Sanders has the same iconography as Che Guevara does.
You're a Southern California guy. Have you ever been to the Playboy Mansion?
No, I hear it's up for sale, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you this, if anybody's out there thinking of buying it, you'd have to bring in Old Faithful to steam clean that thing, all right? There are microbes the size of piranha in that jacuzzi grotto. That place is a virus mead cup. There are bacteria in there that cast a shadow, like Jimmy Arnett.
Still South Carolina, Miller? Small town.
Billy, that's where my presidential library is.
They pass an ordinance that says you cannot wear saggy pants that intentionally display undergarments. You cannot wear them in Timminsville, South Carolina.
Bill, can I tell you, I don't care anymore. I go out with one goal in mind now, and it's not to interact and see what the kids are doing with their sartorial splendor. I go out to get what I want, and then I go back home as quickly as possible, because I don't trust it out anymore. And I don't care what you wear, okay? You can put your undies on your head, and you can put a hat on your ass. Just leave me alone.
All right. Don't get in my way when I'm going to 7-Eleven. Just spread out. Let me get my stuff and get out.
I don't go out to exchange vibes with other generations.
Powerball madness. So, Miller, if you win it, what are you going to do with the money?
You know, Powerball used to be my CB handle.
Breaker 19, Rubber Ducky. You got any Smokey the Bears in your kitchen?
If I win, first off, you'd be a guest right now on the O'Miller Factor, and I'd be working on my new book, Killing Time. That's what's going to happen if I win.
So you're bailing, huh? You're out of there,
and
man.
And then I would get a big fistful of $100 bills, and I would just walk around with it all day. And if I met a moron, I'd say, hey, can I slap you and peel a few off? That's how I'd spend the money.
Now, Miller, I went to Havana to see if there was a suitable venue for the O'Reilly Miller live show, and it was very hard to find.
I won't go down. You'll have to take Waters to that one. I won't play there until frickin' frack Crooked. I'm not going down there. I think they're bad guys. No, I won't go to Cuba until the Castros die. Okay. And even then, it's not big on my list. But I'm telling you this, I heard you had a bad hotel experience down there. And you know something? You should have stayed over in the prison quarters.
Segment tonight, did you see that? Recently, there were riots in Milwaukee, as you know, after a black man was shot dead by police there. Authorities say the suspect carrying a gun had a long record, including gun convictions. Nevertheless, hundreds of people rampaged, destroying property. 41 have been arrested. Now, a very tough story for journalists to cover. Arthur McCallum, I've been in those situations, those riot situations, and he's smart. This kid's a freelancer to get out. Who is he, and do the other reporters feel that way as well?
His name is Tim Poole. He's 30 years old, grew up in Chicago, and as you say, he's very honest. He said he wanted people to understand what the threat there was. He saw reporters, white reporters, being grabbed, being pushed.
Sure.
He saw one guy get shot in the neck who was 18 years old, who was taken out of there. And that seems
not
to be...
Not a reporter, just a
not
civilian.
Not a reporter in that case.
Right.
That seems to be sort of what made him fear for his own life. There was another reporter who was followed all the way back to his hotel by a gang of people. He had to be escorted out to the into his hotel by an escort. So, the problem, of course, with this is that you're looking at a situation like you have in Syria, where there's a black hole. So if this goes on, when these things happen, when the press can't get in and tell the story because they're being intimidated and assaulted in some cases by the people who are there.
Well, it's better for the gangsters because the gangsters aren't on tape. But what reporters have to realize is the police cannot protect you if you're not behind their line. If you go out and you start interviewing people without the police or private security, anything can happen to you, and chances are whoever does it to you is not going to be held accountable.
But as you well know, in many of these cases, more and more the police are having a tough time in these situations, and they're not able to protect people in the way that they want to. This is the United States of America. You have to be able to have the press there. Protesters are allowed to do what they're going to do. The police have to be able to keep people safe. And this is a breakdown, similar to what we saw in the late 60s in this country. Okay.
Now let's shift gears to a much lighter story. We'll take you to Ohio, Lancaster, and a Walmart parking lot.
They're going to take the monkey away from me. And so she wasn't concerned about the man, but she was concerned that if he claims that the monkey bit her...
They can be pretty vicious.
They can be very vicious.
This is a true story real fast. I was in Zambia one time.
Yeah.
Macondo in Zambia. I was in Zambia. And an orangutan threw a grapefruit at me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going, what? And it was like this. And then
there are so many people who have wanted to throw a grapefruit.
That's right. There were 16 other people lined up behind the orangutan. But he was a bad. He got some other woman in the back of the head. And he missed me. But I know he was looking at me. He goes, primates. You got to stay away. No more primates at Walmart. Martha McCallum, everybody. Thank you.
Bill.
The factor tip of the day: how lies put out by the press can become prevailing wisdom. The tip, moments away. Media in a moment, but first, very nice review today in the New York Post. Columnist Cindy Adams read Killing the Rising Sun, says it's thrilling and chilling. That rhymes with killing. Ms. Adams also says she couldn't put Rising Sun down. That's great to hear. The book is out September 13th. Features a very powerful review from General David Petraeus on the back cover. Now, if you pre-order Killing the Rising Sun on BillO'Reilly.com, you'll get it first. And if you become a BillO'Reilly.com premium member, you'll get it free and first. Once again, all the money I derive from BillO'Reilly.com donated to charity. Now, the Mail, Jeremiah Oldfather, Hanukkah, Hawaii. Mr. O'Reilly, I'm a liberal who mostly enjoys your talking points memo, but comparing David Duke to George Soros is off the rails. The former head of the KKK is in a category all his own. The comparison was made because the extremism demonstrated by both men is destructive to the country. Yes, they have different styles, but here's what's the same, Jeremiah. Both are doing heavy damage to the country. Tony Smith, Partridge, Illinois. O'Reilly, thank you for exposing George Soros and his plans for wide-open borders worldwide. This is the most important story of our time. Fred Calhoun, Atlanta. O'Reilly, while we know what Duke's followers have done, you failed to tell us what Soros has done. You're messing with me, right, Fred? You're messing with me? Come on. The memo is posted on BillO'Reilly.com and clearly lays out that Soros is spending millions of dollars to promote open borders, attack Israel, and smear Americans who want protection from the jihad. Come on. Gloria Pemberton, Newbury Park, California. I find it ironic that Soros lives in a country which affords him the freedom to try and destroy it. Always been that way, Gloria. Always been that way. We had a strong communist party, and the Nazi Bund was actually here before World War II. Randy Clemens, Indianapolis, Black Lives Matter showed incredible ignorance in protesting at Graceland. It is well documented that Elvis Presley was a true friend to blacks. Arthur Alex, Palm Coast, Florida. Mr. O'Reilly, you stated that Hillary Clinton is using the techniques illuminated in Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Wrong, Arthur. I said that some in the press are using Alinsky's model, not the candidate. Got to listen closely here. Delano Jenkins, Winchester, Virginia. In Legends and Lies, The Real West, you say General Custer exterminated buffalo to harm Native Americans who needed them to survive. That's true, but disputed by some. Thanks for the reference. Well, you're welcome, Delano. And if you like the Legends and Lies concept, we now have both the West and the Patriot editions available together on BillO'Reilly.com. All right, great gift, great books. And finally tonight, the Factor Tip of the Day. There is a new book out called The Underground Railroad, written by Colson Whitehead. Speaking to Time magazine, Mr. Whitehead explains how he researched slavery and then says, quote, Bill O'Reilly was mad when Michelle Obama mentioned that she lives in a White House built by slaves. Why would you get mad at that? He felt he had to step up and say, actually, that's technically true, but they were well-fed and housed, unquote. Now, anyone who saw my analysis of Michelle Obama's remarks would know that I praised her. I wasn't mad in the slightest. But Mr. Whitehead apparently did not see my analysis, which is now posted on BillO'Reilly.com. Instead, he believes fallacious media reports that were designed to denigrate and smear me. Stuff put out by the gutter snipes. He believes that. Now, Mr. Whitehead is an educated man, an author, and he must know that I got the facts right about the construction of the White House. If he wrote a book about slavery, he must know that. But he, like millions of other Americans, are now disseminating propaganda put forth by a very corrupt American media. Don't believe what you hear and read in the media these days. Check things out for yourself, and it's easy with the net. Back to Tip of the Day. And that is it for us tonight. Please check out the Fox News Factor website, different from BillO'Reilly.com. Also, please spout off about the Factor from anywhere in the world. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com, O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. Name and town if you wish to opine. Word of the day, do not be magniloquent. That's a good one. Do not be magniloquent. Writing to the Factor. Tomorrow, Bernie Goldberg on the Soros case. Again, thanks for watching The Factor tonight. I am Bill O'Reilly, and please always remember that the spin stops right here, because we are definitely looking out for you.